Greetings, everyone. My name is Sister Boswell, and as some of you may already know, I am a convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to explain my story of how I joined the church, since everyone is always curious and wants to know. So here's a nice, long, drawn-out, detailed version for all of you. So when I was a kid, we didn't really grow up going to church that often. I was baptized in the Methodist church as a baby, but we only went on Christmas and Easter, like holidays and things like that, special occasions. So I didn't really grow up with a concrete knowledge of who God was or why he mattered or, what he could do for my life. And I honestly kind of hated going to church. To me, church was just this place where I had to put on a dress and listen to this old guy talk and sit still and be quiet, and I was like, this is so dumb. I don't like going to church. And I was like that for a long time. And in middle school, I had a couple of my friends invite me to their Baptist church, and I was like, okay, wait, no, Baptist has got to be way worse than Methodist. I am not going. But they eventually convinced me, so I went, and it wasn't like the Methodist church. It was like one of those cool rock and roll churches with the band, and everyone's wearing jeans, and the pastor makes jokes and all these things, and I was like, oh, wow, this is actually like kind of fun. I kind of like this. So I started going regularly, and that's really where I started to gain an understanding of who God was and why he mattered. I started to gain a testimony of Jesus Christ. I was eventually baptized there again by immersion that time, and I loved it. Like, I loved going to church. I loved studying the Bible. I was a Sunday school teacher for a group of second grade girls for several years, and I just loved those girls to pieces. Like, I just loved church. I loved God. I loved the whole thing. And I was willing to do like whatever it took to get me closer to Christ. And so in high school, I met a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we started dating. And at that point, I didn't really know that much about the church. I had just heard, stereotypical rumors like, oh, they don't believe in the Trinity, they worship Satan, they're not real Christians, blah, blah, blah. And so I asked my boyfriend one day, I was like, well, what's the difference between your church and Christians? Like, what's the difference between Christian and Mormon? And he said, well, we are Christian, and we believe that we're the one true church. And in my brain, I figured that, if this is the one true church, then I want to be a part of it. If it will lead me closer to Christ, then I should be a part of it. So I started learning more about it. And by learning, I mean we kind of Bible bashed over it. I wasn't necessarily trying to prove him wrong or make him feel bad or anything. I just wanted to be like absolutely 100% sure that this was the true church and that I wasn't making a mistake. So we argued, bashed, whatever you want to call it, for 6 months. And during this time of my life, I was super confused. Like, I was questioning all these things that I had never questioned before. I was going to all of these pastors of mine and asking them like what they think I should do, like what was their opinion, and most, if not all of them, were just like, don't even consider it. They worship Satan, they do all these weird things, obviously like things that I had learned at that point weren't true. So I was like, okay, great, you're not helping me. There was this one pastor who did say, I came up to him with all these questions and concerns, and he was like, you know what, like, you'll make the right choice. Don't stress. You pray about it, you make the right choice. I trust you to make the right decision. I was like, oh, thanks for the confidence, man. I appreciate it. So there were all those 6 months of kind of arguing and trying to figure out what was right and praying and reading the Book of Mormon and all these things. I kind of got to a point where I couldn't argue my way around it anymore. And I just knew that it was right. I couldn't see how it wasn't right. So I told my parents I wanted to join and get baptized. And they said no. Up until that point, most of my friends and family had heard the stereotypical rumors about the church. They thought it was a cult and all this crazy whack stuff that's not true. So they didn't let me get baptized. And my life just kind of shortly fell apart after that. It was really hard leaving my other churches. So I remember I went up to my supervisor, who was kind of like in charge of me and all the other teachers over the kids, and I told her that I was joining this other church and all these things, and she was like, oh, well, let me make sure you're allowed to come back and say bye to these girls. And I was like, allowed to come back? Man, I've been teaching here for 2 years. What do you mean I might not be allowed to come back? Like I just got this cold shoulder from a lot of people. I felt like everyone was mad at me, didn't understand what I was doing. A lot of people just assumed that I was joining the church because of my boyfriend, and like, I just got grief from everybody. Like, I lost a lot of friends, and it was just a rough place. And shortly thereafter, also to add to it all, my boyfriend moved away, and he started going inactive. He started falling away from the church and God and everything. And I found out that some of my only friends that were left, a family of church members, were also moving away soon. And I was like, great, thanks. It's me and the Book of Mormon now. That's all I've got. So it was a really hard time for me, honestly speaking. But it ended up working well in my favor. My parents noticed that I was so miserable, so they were finally like, okay, fine. You can go to church with your friends, with your Mormon friends, until they move away. But this was such a tender mercy. My friends ended up not moving away for another year, so I got to go to church for like a good solid 4 or 5 months before I was baptized. So sorry friends who are watching this that it took forever for you to move, but that was a huge tender mercy for me, so thank you. So I waited, and in those months that I was waiting, I was trying so hard to catch up on everything that I felt like I had missed out on. I was doing the homeschool seminary lessons, I was doing personal progress, I was studying, all of my spare time trying to catch up and have all these spiritual experiences and everything. And yeah, it was crazy. Talking about fast track your way to spirituality. I was trying so hard to catch up. And the day finally came that I was able to get baptized, and my baptism was pretty legendary. So I guess first off, I did a whole bunch of really extra preparation. I wanted to make my baptism as much of a missionary experience as I could, so I could get all of my friends and family to understand why I had joined all these things. I made these cute little invitations, and I even put a dress code on it because I wanted my friends to show up looking respectful and everything. And I made these little slips that explained why I was getting baptized, what the priesthood was, why I was getting baptized again, because keep in mind this is my 3rd time getting baptized. I was so extra. So I did all this stuff. I asked the missionaries for a big box of Book of Mormons, and they brought me one of those big boxes of the Book of Mormons that has 40 copies in there, and I got these little bows, the little sticky bows, and I put them on the copies of the Book of Mormon on a table. And at the end of my baptism, I was I bore my testimony about the Book of Mormon, and I was if you want to go closer to Christ, go grab yourself a copy. So I had all these Book of Mormons out. It was a missionary who baptized me, Elder Hill. Cool guy. He ended up, later he would be the one to pick me up from the airport and take me to the MTC, so that's pretty cool. We kept in contact, and my baptism was just such a spiritual experience. I invited everyone and their dog. I was if you want to come, please do. So I had all of these friends come out of the woodworks. I invited teachers, I invited everybody. My parents came, a lot of my family members came. I was baptized, I was confirmed on the same day. It was on my birthday, my 18th birthday, because I didn't want to wait a day longer than I had to. I was confirmed font side. At the end, I got up and I brought my testimony, like I said. After it was all over, I did my temple recommend interview. So 15 minutes later, I had a temple recommend interview, and I went to the temple to do baptisms 3 days later, and got my grandpa and my grandma baptized on my dad's side. So that was super cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my story. That's how I got baptized. And since then, my parents and a lot of my family members have softened up a lot. I think at this point they've realized that I didn't join the church for an ex-boyfriend that I haven't talked to in 3 years. So they realize my motives were pure now, and everything. So things have gotten a lot better, and I am so happy that I stuck with it, and I kept studying, and I made that decision to get baptized. I did end up graduating from seminary and getting the little personal progress thing, which made my heart super happy. So yeah, it's just been quite a journey. And even though it was super hard, I am super grateful for it, and I don't think I would have had it any other way because it taught me so many things. So yeah, that's how I joined. And keep in mind, so I'm going to make another video. This is the video of how I joined the church, but I'm going to make another video that explains my conversion story process, like what it really took for me to gain that testimony of this church in the Book of Mormon and how it could draw me closer to Christ. So watch out for that video as well, because it's kind of a different topic than this one. It would be too long to talk about with all this. This is already super long. So anyways, I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.